Hello, welcome to the Curator Podcast. This is episode 6. Hi, hello, welcome once again, dear listener, to the Curator Podcast. I am your host, Mark Fraser, and this is episode 7. So I'm recording this on July the 1st, which I've just read is the hottest July day since records began. So just to sort of run you through where I'm standing right now, I'm standing in my wardrobe, covered in a blanket. It is hot. I mean, the sweat is literally pouring off me. It's disgusting. I might actually pass out during recording this. It remains to be seen, frankly, but I wouldn't be surprised if I did. So today's guest is Kenny from Carnivores. Kenny is a really interesting, articulate and intelligent guy, so it was really good to sit down and chat with him. We had quite a lovely long chat about carnivores, touring and politics, so I hope you like what you hear. I'm going to try and keep the preamble to a minimum, so let's just crack on. This week, I've been blown away by the response to the podcast. I've had some folk email me and give me some iTunes reviews, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So if you haven't done that yet, please do that. I would really appreciate that. I respond to all the emails, and really, I want to get this podcast up iTunes. I want people to notice it, to notice that there is something special going on in Scotland, not just in the music scene, but in the art scene in general. And I really hope this podcast can be part of that. So please, if you get the moment, if you could do that, I would appreciate that so much. Before we get into the interview, I just want to chuck out a couple of recommendations. Firstly, President Obama was on WTF with Mark Maron last Monday. And I read yesterday that it had just hit 1.6 million listeners, which is kind of crazy. So if you haven't checked it out before, it'd be a great episode to do so. It's probably the most human I've ever heard Obama be, I suppose. But even though that Mark Maron wasn't as effusive as he usually is, he was actually quite restrained. I still think it's a really, really good podcast. And with 1.6 million listeners, I think we can definitely say that podcasting is now in the mainstream. It's only getting bigger as time goes on and smartphones become more ubiquitous. Also want to recommend Bridge the Atlantic. These guys were talking to me on Twitter throughout the week, and it's a really good podcast. If you like something which is similar to this, which sort of explores creativity and creative people, then you really should check it out. Plus it's run and presented by a fellow Scot, so I mean, what's not to like there? So yeah, definitely give that a listen. Let's get on with today's podcast. This interview opens with a track from Carnivore's latest album, Let's Get Metaphysical, which is out now on Small Town America Records, and this is the title track, Let's Get Metaphysical.
My love is ambidextrous, but my limbs are always set in stone. I try fingers, space that's in between. Where I am and where I want to be. I will draw me class. I'll try my best to leave a breadcrumb trail for you. Distances, my mistress and my foe. I'm way too weak. I'm trying to let go. Distances, my mistress and my foe. I'm way too weak. I'm trying to let go. Let's get, hey, let's get metaphysical. Let's get, hey, let's get metaphysical.
Kenny, how you doing?
I'm very well, thanks.
You been up to?
I've just finished work and now I'm back home. Everything's great. We're currently in the south side of Glasgow.
It's a very nice flat.
Oh, thank you.
The walls are very white.
I know, we moved in about a month ago and the landlady, person who used to live here who owns a flat, had across the wall was you can see there's all these screws in the wall. It was just 12 records, but it was Wham and stuff like that, framed vinyl, the way that people have got Velvet Underground and really cool stuff. She had Wham and George Michael and Erasure vinyls all along the wall. And me and my flatmate were going to keep it up for a month, but when we moved in, they were all gone. I was really disappointed. So the place looks a bit bare, but we're getting round to putting some stuff up. The current two things that are on the wall is a signed photograph of Tony Fitzpatrick, who was the St Mirren captain in 1987 when we won the Scottish Cup, and an old 1940s Tennent's Lager framed picture. So that's us.
I need to take a photograph of that before I leave.
My flatmate thought the St Mirren picture was actually Tom Selleck from Magnum PI.
Actually, at first glance, it looked a bit like Graham Souness to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't have Graham Souness up, but
yeah,
yeah.
horrible decision.
Yeah.
So how's the band doing, man? You must be working on your new record by this point.
We actually haven't, for a change. Usually we are always writing and stuff, but the last pretty much last year we worked pretty full on, and we kind of realised that our current drummer Martin joined us in January 1st, 2013, and we pretty much toured, gigged and recorded all the way through to October last year, so we were all totally bust and needed a bit of a break. So we've been kind of intermittently working and stuff this year. We're about to go on tour again in the summer, and we're doing a live album. And yeah, we're doing that we're recording that in Derry, Northern Ireland, where our record label's based. So it's pretty cool. We're going to have some new songs on that and older songs that haven't been released and stuff. So it's going to be cool, because I think the general consensus with our band is that the records are cool, but us live is a thing that is better than anything we've managed to record.
So where did it begin for you, man? The music thing? Where did that start?
I started playing music. Well, I first got into music when I was dead young. My parents don't play music, but I got into music, listening to records and stuff at a really young age. When I was about 7, I started buying albums. I started playing guitar when I was 10. I kind of didn't know what I was going to be good at, and I finally decided I wanted to play guitar, because I'm 28, so by that time Britpop was a big thing, so Oasis and Blur, and I got a guitar and just taught myself, and from there I think I started playing in bands played my first gig when I was 13, I think. Yeah, December 2000. Yep, played my first gig when I was 13 years old, and it's been like that ever since. Just playing in bands, going to college, studied music, played in more bands, toured and everything. Yeah, so started playing at a really young age.
It's younger than a lot of people, especially your first gig at 13. That's younger than most people.
Yeah, it was just a thing to do, because I come from Paisley, really small town. It's a big town geographically, but small culturally. So there wasn't much to do. Played football fairly well, but wasn't good enough to go forward. So I had to have another thing that was I could be good at. So playing music was that. So started playing guitar, and it seemed pretty obvious that when you played guitar, then you form a band, and if you formed a band, you played gigs. That was a pretty direct link. I have my uncle, my dad's brother, he's been a musician like a working musician in Newcastle for about 30 years. So that's what he does. He plays gigs every week. So that was kind of from that. So I guess that was the sign, was this like playing bands, whatever band it was. So I played guitar in like a metal band. I played like double bass in the school jazz band. I played like drums in a band. So you just play it because it's there to be played. So that was that. Played all the way through school. Yeah, so that's how I started playing in bands.
So since you started so young, has there ever been a time you can remember not having like wanting to play music? Like, is it always in your head? Has it always been a thing like you've had on your mind since as far back as you can remember, I guess?
Yeah, I think the longest period of time I haven't played a gig was actually, like longest space in between not playing a gig was maybe last year at some point. I think there was a kind of 6 month period where I didn't play a show, when it was the in between stage of our album being finished and coming out, and I was not really doing stuff and having a really terrible full-time job. So that was, I think, in the last, how many years is that? 10. When was 2000? Last 15 years. Last 15 years, I think I've maybe had about 6 months of not playing music. The rest of the time, I've always been either rehearsing or playing gigs or recording. So yeah, it's always been there.
How does that kind of 6 months of downtime feel then? Have you been on the go for like 15 years?
At the time, it was really frustrating because the job I had at the time, I hated it so much that all I did was think about music, and I had quite a position of fair responsibility managing a shop, but it was a terrible shop, so you'd zone out and just think about songs and think about releases and artwork and kind of utilise company material to do promotional stuff and sit and promote stuff all day online. So that kind of was frustrating because I was thinking about music all day. But it's one of these things that like I have periods of like intense activity that sometimes when I take a bit of time off, I kind of go, oh, it's nice having a normal life and being able to do normal things instead of basing everything around playing music and being a band. But at the end of the day, it's still like a sort of itch that needs to be scratched. Like we played a gig quite recently, and it was like a facet of my life that I'd like not done for a few months. You do it again and you realise how important it is. So it's good.
That's like, if you've been doing it for so long, it's basically become such an integral part of who you are. So I find it really interesting that you say when you weren't doing it, you felt like you had a normal life. That, if that's what you've been doing for a while, then that's not really normal, is it, I guess?
No, it's playing music is one of the most extreme things you can do in terms of your personality, because it's you almost get like kind of, from me away from playing music, I'm quite a quiet guy, but like on stage, anyone who's seen our band or listened to our music knows it's very full on and very frantic, and you jump about and you shout and go crazy, and you have that sort of way where you think it's a sort of Bruce Wayne Batman thing. Is Bruce Wayne wearing the mask to be a normal person, but is actually a maniac and is Batman, or is Batman putting on the mask to be a superhero? So you don't know if like, am I the person that plays gigs, is that really what I'm like, or is the quiet person really what I'm like? You start to get a bit messed up if you're doing that all the time, especially if like there was about a 5 or 6 year period where I was like touring constantly and working in that terrible shop, so you can have insane bursts of reality maxed out with like great kind of celebration experiences of like playing gigs and enjoying yourself and having creative freedom, but also going back to a very mundane existence. So that's kind of what my normality's been for years, is this: you go and you play gigs after 12-hour shifts, and then you go back and you work 12-hour shifts, but you feel great in between that when you do the gig. So when you don't do gigs and you start to do it that other people do, it gets a bit boring.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I remember reading an interview years ago with John Feldman from Goldfinger, and also now mega producer, and he said there must be something wrong with people wanting to be in bands, because it's just not a normal thing to do. I think I feel that myself. I don't know about you.
Aye. It's like, I noticed that when I started playing in bands, like when I was playing guitar, I was in primary school, and I was maybe like our school had a music program, but it was brass instruments. That was it. We didn't have pianos or anything at our school. It was a fairly terrible state school in Paisley. So when I went to high school and I'd already been playing guitar for a few years, it was only then that I realised that other people who played guitars and drums and bass who wanted to be in the bands were all mental. It's just, it sort of people who want to play in bands, I think psychologically want the unity of being around other people who are as weird as each other. So I think that's what kind of playing in bands is great for, because you end up meeting all these people who are all completely messed up about the same things, so enjoy being around each other. You definitely see that in Glasgow in the music scene there, that there's very, very few people I know from the Glasgow music scene who are from Glasgow. They're born and bred Glaswegians. I mean, I'm from Paisley, that's 7 miles away, so that's like culturally quite different, but there's people who are from all over the place, and generally they were like the weirdo in their high school who is now coming to Glasgow to do creative things, and they can be as weird as they want around all these other people, which is amazing.
So going back in something, just picking up on something you said, you said you were touring and playing gigs and doing that kind of thing for a long period, like 5 years, like solid. And was that with Carnivores, or was it with another band, or?
Well, when I started my sort of career of playing in bands, I was playing in bands through school. My first serious band was when I was about 15, 16. We'd done a lot of touring, and it was your fairly standard kind of generic Oasis-y Britpoppy type band. I was like bass player, manager sort of guy. And we toured quite a lot around Scotland at a young age. And I was in a band that was like a metal band who kind of almost done something. We were at the point where like Killswitch Engage had come out and Bullet for My Valentine, and a few big record labels were kind of looking at us and going, this could be like our version of that, but we all turned it down because it was like that way when you go and speak to a record label and we're like, oh yeah, we love you guys, but we want to change the sound, the image, the music, the guys in the band, how you look and how you're going to look and what he's dressed like. And it's like, so you don't like the band really. So when you see through that at a young age, you go, cool, I don't want to be a part of that anyway. So I'd done that, and I started kind of being like a singer-songwriter for a while, and I was kind of struggling to find what was my thing. So I toured a lot like that, just going around playing acoustic guitar, like touring around the country. I'd done, I think, about 150 shows doing it like that. There was a year I did 100 gigs. I think 2007 or 2008 I'd done a solid 100 gigs. I was working full time, which basically absolutely killed me. But it made me so I didn't start singing until I was a lot older. I was about 17, 18 when I started singing. So that was kind of like the way that footballers do, they go on loan and play in the lower leagues to get good. I went on tour solo, playing to nobody, to get my voice to be very strong and very loud, and it worked because I've got a very loud voice when I sing live. But that was what I did before I decided I wanted to be in a rock band, like a power trio. And that was how I formed Carnivores in about 2008. And yeah, so 2008 onwards, that was basically when we started trying to do music. And it was about 2010 we started taking it seriously. So yeah, the last kind of 4 or 5 years has pretty much been exclusively Carnivores. I have like been away and like worked with other bands in terms of like teching for them and like tour managing and stuff. So that side of it's good, but it was a side that I kind of did mainly to facilitate my love for being away on tour and all that, which is cool. Something I don't really do much anymore.
So how's that experience helped shape Carnivores and the goals you have for Carnivores?
Touring makes you better as a musician, because it's not just about the musical side of it, it's the sort of mental side of being on tour, because it forces you to be good at what you do. Because when you're touring at our level, which, make no illusions, is an incredibly small level, you know, most of the time we've toured in cars off very small vans, so you need to be good. You need to have everything prepared, and it's that sort of like preparation that kind of makes or breaks bands when they start out. Like I remember 2010 or 2011 when we did Tea Break, like the big Tina Park Unsigned thing, and I think there's only 3 bands still going from that year, which is us, the La Fontaines and Father Son, and every other band patched it because they couldn't hack the touring side of it afterwards, or they couldn't hack the fact that they had to have a work ethic. And I think the 3 bands that have came out of that have been, you know, us, Father Son, La Fontaines, have had that work ethic and the sort of drive, you know, whatever you think about them musically. They've had this sort of dedication which comes from touring. Because when you go out on tour, you're responsible for not just yourself, but the other guys in the band and supports and, you know, paying the bills and stuff. So there's a lot of responsibility to take on, and you come back from tour a much better band. And I think anybody who's been on tour for more than a week will come back and will absolutely nail it live, unless they're just a shite band.
So I was reading, I've read some interviews that you've done. I did my research. You said Well, I guess I'll come to this question first, and then we'll come back to the one I was going to ask. Who are some of the songwriters that you look up to that helped you not only become the songwriter you are now, but kind of is the well you keep going to, I guess you could say.
I've always loved Rivers Cuomo from Weezer, like this incredible songwriter to a point. Because like the first 3 Weezer records are amazing. There's great examples of great guitar music, great pop. And he's kind of went a bit off piste the last few records, but Rivers Cuomo definitely. Jeff Tweedy from Wilco, phenomenal songwriter. See, anytime anyone asks me this, I always take a pure blank for whatever I'm going to talk about. I guess there's a lot of like bands that don't relate to the sort of music we play, but like that I love songwriting wise, like Blur are one of my favourite bands and always will be, like Blur and Radiohead, like I said, Weezer, Wilco, like things that you always go back to, like the Dillinger Escape Plan, like always like change the way I play guitar and like make me think in different ways, even though we're not half as technical as what they are. If it wasn't for me hearing that style of music, I wouldn't have thought I could like mix things like Dillinger Escape Plan and Weezer together to make kind of roughly what we sound like. So those guys definitely, and plus all the obvious ones, you know, Elvis Costello and Beatles, you know, those guys invented songs, you know.
It's interesting, I was talking to my flatmate that was coming to interview you, and he's like, I've never heard Carnivores before, and I tried to describe what you guys sounded like, and I found that I couldn't.
Aye.
And that unsettled me.
Aye.
What, did you get any thoughts on that?
Well, it was actually one of the best bad reviews we've ever had was when some guy came to see us and was just like, I don't get this. Like, one of their songs is like totally indie, and one of their songs is almost death metal, and then they've got other songs that are like halfway between like pop music and like hardcore. I don't quite get this. If they just made everything into one box, it would make so much sense. And that was when we first started, and it made us sort of rethink what we were going to do and have a sort of unifying thing. So, but as the thing with Carnivores is just that we're a rock band. That's the only way you can describe it, because there's heavy bits, there's pop bits, there's really weird technical bits, there's noisy sections. It's something we've always tried to do to kind of keep it fresh, is not have more than 2 songs that are like the same, but it's still just guitar, bass, drums and vocals. To people who aren't aware of all the different genres and subgenres, it's just rock music, which is kind of what I'm most comfortable telling people it is. But I guess if you had to call it something that's like post-hardcore or alternative rock or something, you know, it's just rock music. You know?
Like, you don't even need to have those labels. It's just
It's rock music. There's guitars, there's singing, there's shouting, there's really heavy rhythms, but there's also harmonies and nice choruses, and there's no guitar solos. Guitar solos are terrible.
I fucking love guitar solos, man.
I'd never got that side of guitar playing. I remember when I started playing guitar, it was me and a guy I was at school with who was also learning how to play guitar, and we were both into like Metallica and stuff, and he was like a total advocate of sitting with the tab books, learning how to do the 2-handed tapping and learn how to riff the solos, and I was like the complete opposite. I was just like, how do you write songs and how do you construct arrangements and how do you make the song better? So I guess there's 2 types of guitar players. There's the ones who like the sort of technical element of being very good at a tool, and there's some people who use guitars as a means to creativity, and I definitely am in that way, because although I love playing guitar and I love like being good at it, I'm not interested in solos or like kind of this sort of, I don't want to say limelight element of guitar solos, but there's definitely that element of like people who play guitar solos probably are the same people who like cars. You know, most people I know who really like the ripping totally guitar solos are the same people who really enjoy fast cars. And I think there's an element of that like goes together, but it's not for me.
A psychology paper on that for sure, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember like there was a thing I watched this documentary about like music in America, and there's like certain bands are huge in America, not because they're good, not because they're good songs, but because they're technically proficient. So like Dream Theater and Steve Vai and Dave Matthews Band, they're not people in America like to see people executing their duties well. You know, that's why NASCAR is huge, because it's people being good at something continuously. Whereas I think in Europe we prefer music to have a bit more soul and character and story to it. But I remember there's been quite a few people who've come to our gigs and they've been like, oh man, this is really great, but where's the guitar solos? And like, imagine you have a guitar solo. We've written like loads of cool bits within the song. Like adding a really twiddly 12-bar solo would just be ridiculous. You know?
It's almost offensive in a way.
Yeah, aye. There's been points where we've written tunes where we've like, it would actually be pretty cool if we had a guitar solo here, and we've went to try and do it, and we're like, nah, it's really terrible. Yeah.
You said you talked a little bit about documentaries there. I have read some interviews that you've done, and you said that film, TV, that kind of thing, documentaries are a huge influence. Your lyrics definitely have quite a social awareness, I guess you could say. Is that related to like your love of all that kind of media?
It's something that I'm trying to stop doing because I think it's really easy to write lyrics, but what you've read in the paper today or what you've seen in the news, it's dead easy to kind of come across as being like, I am laying down my views on the world. And I kind of, like looking back on our previous records, those songs I think are the ones that I don't really enjoy because it's kind of like, you know, Billy Bragg-esque, you know, I am making a stand for the working man sort of thing, and it's like, I know it's some people do it really well. I don't think I do it particularly well. There's some guys who do that sort of really like earnest statements about life thing really well. I don't really enjoy writing like that anymore. There was a period where I did kind of want to be like Mr. Social Conscience and like I'm going to educate the masses about how life should be. But then you kind of think, nah, because there's always going to be one person disagrees with what you write about, you know. So I prefer to write songs that are more autobiographical or like stories. I can never do the whole third person thing, and I'm getting a bit bored of the whole social commentary thing. It was cool for a while, but not so much anymore for me. But I do like film and TV is a huge thing for me. Like, most of the times I write songs, I'm sitting just watching TV or like watching films or things like that. But I'm trying to get away from the whole political element of writing or like social conscience thing because it gets a bit boring. It's an easy thing to write about, and I don't think no one's got much to say anymore.
Well, you've been doing it for so long, man, and obviously the goal is to challenge yourself as well. So maybe breaking out of those kind of, I guess, patterns that you've created for yourself is obviously a very good thing.
Yeah, it's just this writing songs is just you constant challenge for yourself. You've always got to find a new thing to tap into because it would be very easy to be like a post-hardcore band that sung about how bad the Tories were and how bad the BNP is and UKIP. You know, I look at American bands like that, like Rise Against and things like that, and it's like every album seems to be about another series of social injustice that don't really say much, but basically stand up for saying we're liberal, and if you're not liberal, then you're probably terrible at life, you know. So it'd be really easy to do it. Plus, I don't think there's much politically you can write about. There's a lot. That's like there's a song on the last album that I did kind of want it to be like the final song I wrote about that called Apathy in the UK, and it was like sort of how politically unsavvy a lot of people are. But then towards the end of the year, when you saw like Scottish independence thing, and then this last general election, I think kind of our generation of people are a lot less apathetic towards politics than what they used to be. And I've always been pretty politically aware. It's kind of something that I've been brought up with, but like I was always really disgusted with like the amount of my friends who'd never voted. So that was kind of that song. I wanted that to be like the last element of this is the last sort of social song we're going to write, and it is just going to be like kind of most people would rather complain about reality TV and celebrities than they would complain about how terrible the streets are, you know, and you know how people can't get the sort of social care they should and all that sort of thing, you know, which is a larger problem throughout society.
I think it's important to address those things, but like you just said, if you're done with that, then I guess it's obviously you're the songwriter, man.
Aye. Plus, I don't have much time to really get into the sort of political element. Like, there's some of my friends who are very politically engaged and are very socially conscious, and they're a lot more intelligent than I am. And I tend to think, like, if you're writing a song about it, you can really come across as quite politically naive because you've only got like a verse, chorus, bridge to sum up your entire manifesto. And you're always going to miss out on something really important that someone's going to have a go at you for, you know. So I just leave it be.
Potentially, I'm excited.
funny that you mentioned Billy Bragg, because I was reading an interview with him recently, and he was basically saying that he loved Joe Strummer and the Clash, and always really good friends with him. It's like they didn't go far enough though. That's why I am the voice I am, because the band that are kind of seen as being one of the voices, they really didn't do that much in terms of that a sort of political opinion, I guess.
Yeah, well, the Clash, like, I love the Clash, but I would agree with that a lot of what they did was the sloganeering. You know, they had this whole sort of thing of, you know, well, with the Clash and we came out and we see these sort of things, but when you actually look through Clash singles, there's very little political stuff on it. There's a lot of social commentary, like Guns of Brixton and all that sort of thing, but it didn't really go into actual, like, detail. I mean, even with Billy Bragg songs, I mean, everyone forgets that half of Billy Bragg songs are about, you know, relationships. You know, there's a lot of his most famous songs are about his relationships with people. There's only a few of his songs that are actually more politically engaged. I think especially with Red Wedge and stuff in the 80s, he definitely became a bit of a figurehead for what people thought was political songwriting, but there's not that many when you go through his back catalogue that actually say anything worth saying about politics. You know, Elvis Costello said more, you know, and he doesn't really voice it. I think that Elvis Costello wrote some really politically savvy songs and kind of tried to be a bit more direct. When I watched, he's got a song called Tramp the Dirt Down about, this was a song in 1988 that was all about like how he would react on the day Margaret Thatcher died. And this was the height of the Thatcher government, and he spent ages trying to make the song as vicious as he could, but also as just as he could, because he didn't want to be that another songwriter who was having a go at Thatcher, because he wanted to get it spot on. And when you listen to it back now, it still stands up, because it wasn't like aiming specific daggers at political events. It was more about the hatred of a person. So I think that a lot of Billy Bragg stuff is kind of idealistic, but it doesn't really go for the jugular politically. But there's a lot of that stuff really dated as well. When you listen to a lot of political songwriters, they it's kind of more first world problems with a lot of them. You know, there's very few that actually say anything worth saying. And I still think one of the greatest kind of British social commentaries in any sort of songs are, like, you know, listen to Oasis, and it's like, and the song's kind of, I can't remember, it was in the line of cigarettes and alcohol. Is it worth the aggravation to find myself a job and there's nothing worth working for? And it's a great line in a song that kind of summed up an entire generation of British people. You know, the entire generation of British people that kind of fucked everything up for everybody now, but that one line sort of sums up everything that was wrong with that entire generation, that entire apathy. So I think people who try their best to write political songs end up coming across a bit shortchanged, I think.
Yeah, it kind of feeds back in what you just said about feeling that when you're writing political songs, it feels like a bit naive. Like, that idealism definitely feeds into that, I think.
I remember reading or listening to an interview with Billy Bragg, and he said he thought he was very politically savvy, and he get invited up to play at this miners' convention during the miners' strike up in Newcastle, I think it was. And he says when he got there, he kind of realised that he was just another, you know, upper working class guy who thought he knew what problems were, until he went and met these people whose husbands were in prison or sons were in prison because they were protesting the miners' strike. And that kind of made him go away and kind of go back to the books a wee bit and read about everything that was happening in the world, and kind of make himself a bit more tuned in, because he realised how naive he was. Just because he was a, you know, mid-20s guy who hated the current political government, that didn't give him any right to talk about the rest of Britain. You know, like, politics is an important thing, I think, but like, I'm at a sort of like political crossroads. There's a lot of the parties I think have got good ideas, but I can't really get behind the people in them, because I think anybody who wants to go into politics to be like a Prime Minister or an SNP must have some sort of real problem in their lives, that they think that them becoming like a host, like, you know, what's the word? They kind of want to embody people's opinions. People must have a real psychological defect for that, because they've either got a huge ego or a massive psychological defect that they think, I am going to resolve everybody's problems and everything's going to be fine. So I kind of get really downhearted about it, because like, I'm a huge liberal, I'm a huge supporter of the Green Party, but I don't really associate myself with any of that, because I think a lot of the ideas get lost in translation due to all the sort of pomp and ceremony of British politics. You know, I think there's a lot to be changed and all that. So it's something that like I think I'll get involved in more in the coming years. But at the moment, I'm kind of get a bit of a political hangover from like the last 18 months of everything that's happened in Scotland and everything that's happening in Britain, that you kind of see that no matter how much you try and influence it, it's never going to really change unless everything changes. So, aye, bit of a political hangover at the moment.
It's been an intense time for us.
Yeah.
In Scotland, for sure.
Yeah, it's the one thing I remember having quite serious discussions with my parents about it. Like, it's like my mother's always been quite a serious Labour voter, and my dad always quite engaged with politics and never voted. It's one of the only things we've ever had arguments about, that he said, well, what's the point in voting when there's no one to vote for? It's like, so the people who shouldn't get in don't get in. That's the reason why you vote, you know, because, you know, I voted Labour for a very long time, but it got to a point where you can't trust them anymore. And so that's the kind of the sort of passion that you get with politics. I'm glad to see a lot more other people are feeling it as well. I mean, even when you're walking about Glasgow, you see the houses that have got, you know, yes stickers or no stickers. You know, it's good to see people had an opinion, regardless of what the opinion was. You know, to see such a high turnout was incredible. And it's great to see the sort of younger generation getting engaged with that at a young age, which was generally, I mean, I don't remember anyone ever talking about politics when I was at school. You know, teachers did encourage you to go and read up on it. You know, people's parents weren't talking about politics. It's kind of depressing. You think that how messed up the country was throughout the 90s, and no one was really getting engaged. They felt so disconnected because of the previous 20 years that no one was really bothering about it. You know, aye, that's politics.
To go back to the music thing, I guess, let's go back to that. You've obviously had a lot of experience gigging. I was just kind of thinking, like, when you said you've played so many shows, like, what's the worst gig you could remember?
I've done some bad ones. There's been a couple of really bad ones. Last year we were on tour, we played in Derby, and I think there was a grand total of about, including the sport band. It was a weird one because the guy who's booking the show was from up here, but I think he lived down there, and then his missus got ill, so he couldn't come to the gig. So then it wasn't really promoted. So there was a band that we thought were a local band, but it turned out they weren't. They were the main support. They were also on tour, so it was two touring bands playing who knew no one in Derby. So I think we played to, one paying punter and then like bands and crew. And it's just one of those shows where you're just like, oh. In fact, we actually played really well at that gig, but it was 2 days before that we played in Sheffield, and we had been booked. We'd been told by like guys in Vasa had said, right, phone up the South Sea in Sheffield because they do great gigs. And I'm like, ah, cool. But our research showed this venue seemed to be really, really great. So we got a show, and it was like a traditional thing that tends to happen with carnivals is where you're the heaviest band on the bill of indie bands, or where you're the most timid band on a bill of utter metal bands. So we were like second band on, supporting this band called Carcer City, who are like, they're like Liverpudlian and proper like brocore metal band. No, they seem pretty nice guys to be honest, but like they're like stupidly heavy, and we were on second. We played our show to, I think it was about 4 people who came to see us from Sheffield. The promoter made up some shady excuse that, because there was another show that night, he might not be able to pay us. So naturally, us being Glaswegians, I had to go and kind of basically threaten the guy, and we got money. But I remember being in the hotel room that night, and Martin, our drummer, was staying up all night to try and do his dissertation. And I think I was watching Cape Fear at like 3 a.m, just sort of re-evaluating like my life. Kind of going, we've just played a show to 4 people in Sheffield to like the worst venue I've ever been in my life, and like we still have another 5 gigs to go on this tour. That was pretty soul destroying. But I remember when I was doing acoustic gigs, playing a show at the Edinburgh Festival, and it was the last time I was in a physical fight. This was about 2007, and there was an American guy who was just talking really loudly, and there was about 50, 60 people there to see me. And it was an unplugged show, so it was really quiet, and everyone was being really nice and attentive, and it was cool. This guy kept on talking and talking and being really loud, so I asked him to be quiet at the end of the gig. He said something, I said something to him, and I swore at him, and he done the classic American thing of like, don't curse, buddy, and like asked him outside. And then he proceeded to push me, and I decked him, and I think he was trying to phone the police, and he got back up and I punched him again. But that was the worst feeling I've ever had at a gig, of this like, why are some people so irritating in music? But that was a bad experience at a show.
hate that lack of respect, especially if you get an acoustic guitar. It's just like, this guy's playing quietly, shut the fuck up.
Aye, and it's not that, it's that way, sense the tone. There's other people here enjoying this and want it to be quiet, and you're just being loud. I mean, we've done some bad gigs in terms of, I don't think we've ever played a gig where we walked off stage and went, we were terrible tonight. We've had some gigs like with previous lineups and previous bands where you come off and you go, nah, no chance. But Carnivores, generally, we've always played good shows, but like we've had good shows where we've played well, but the audience has been terrible. Like we played in the Infernal once and some guy tried to glass me, like I was in the crowd, and there was about 40 people there, and a bunch of people enjoying it, a bunch of people not, and some guy like threw a pint glass at me that just bounced off my chest and landed on the floor, and his mates started absolutely ridiculing him to the point where he got chucked out of the venue for trying to punch his own mate. But this is while I was still playing guitar and like was kind of oblivious to what was going on, but the venue owner showed me the CCTV back afterwards, and it was hilarious. But I don't think there's that Sheffield and that Derby show and that tour was two pretty catastrophic feeling gigs where you're just kind of afterwards you're just lying there going, what's the point? You know, you drive all the way down to play a show, you've put a lot of work into it, you know. The guys at a label would put a lot of work into sending posters out to the venue, they hadn't put them up, blah blah blah. You then do the show, there's like 4 people there who have came to see your band, which is amazing. You know, it's the old sort of thing where you can't, it's not those 4 people's fault that no one else is there. So you try and play a really, really good show, but that way where you're trying to play a good show and you can hear the other band in the dressing room next to the stage sitting drinking and like playing like Liverpool songs and like shouting and stuff, and you're like, oh man, this is a terrible state of affairs. But those are probably the worst ones, but thankfully I don't think I've ever done a show to literally no one. I've done some really quiet gigs, like so those 2 on that tour, but I've never done a show where I've walked off stage and, well, saying that, there was a gig we done in Oban actually. This is a bit of a mental story. Like Grant, our bass player's from Oban, and he'd always wanted to go back and do a show, kind of like when I was like, I'll go back and show them what I've achieved, because Oban's a really weird place where like they're really suspicious of Glasgow, and Grant moved down here, and even though to everybody else down here he's still got the thickest accent in the world, all his mates think he's a mad city boy now because he stays down here and all that, and he has pesto and has like coffee and stuff and like reads books and all that stuff. So we went back, the local council were doing like a big Halloween gig where it was like a big ball, and there's a venue called the Carnivores, and it's like 1,000 capacity. So the local council were like, yeah, we'll give Grant's band like $1,000 to come and play this gig. And we were like saving up to do our album, and we were like, yeah, they want you to do like half covers, half originals, and we were like, yeah, because we play covers all the time for fun, you know, just for a laugh. So we're like, yeah, we'll do a bunch of covers, you know, that's a good laugh. So we drove all the way up there, and sound checked, and everything was cool, venue's looking great and all that, and it was apparently sold out. So like, this is going to be really, really cool. So we went to Grant's parents' house and we're having dinner, and back down to the venue about midnight to play the show. Everybody who was running the gig was like the drunkest and most coked up people in the entire world. And like, Grant was trying to quit cigarettes at this point, so he was going cold turkey in the fags, so he was like shaking and every Shrek. Our drummer was driving, so he wasn't drinking. I don't really drink before gigs, and our tech was stone cold sober. And like there was decks on the stage, and like one of the local councillors was doing a massive line of coke off a record as it was spinning around on stage. And so we were doing the gig, and people were enjoying it. People are wrecked though, so they're jumping about and not listening to music. And a fight broke out in the crowd, and the local councillor guy tried to pull us off stage, and was like trying to shove money in an envelope to give to our tech. So he's got like £20 notes on top of the amps, trying to count out like $1,000 in money and like throw it in a suitcase, like proper like mental stuff. So they ended up throwing us off stage, and we couldn't get in a dressing room because someone had barricaded the door, and I was like fucking fuming. And I very rarely get very angry, and like walked off stage and kicked the door clean off the hinges, and someone's wife, like apparently a councillor's wife, had overdosed in the dressing room. So like I was just in like the worst mood that we'd come all the way up, and it was all these drunk arseholes on stage like trying to like turn off the amps and all this when we were playing, and like doing drugs on stage, and like just, it was really disappointing that you come all the way to a show that's sold out and all these people are meant to be having fun, and the people organising that are just lunatics. So they ended up they overpaid us, so fuck them. So that was one of the gigs where it should have been brilliant. There's been quite a few of those now, kind of like you do gigs that should be really, really good, but end up being a bit weird because of other issues or a bit surreal. That was a surreal one that like this guy's trying to pay $1,000 for dressed as a skeleton and is completely out of his mind on drugs, you know. So that was mental. Aye.
So the Carnivores live experience is interesting.
Yeah, generally we don't do shows drunk or anything like that, and none of us do drugs. So it's like a lot of people do. I mean, I remember when we first started, there was a mad rumour about me that kind of was some mad drug lunatic because live we jump about and go crazy and all this. And
I mean, you're not.
I know. So like the shows are like a complete release. When we go crazy on stage, it's generally completely sober. I have a few drinks, and there's some shows where I have played completely out of my mind, but that's a rarity. I still have relative motor functions when I'm steaming, so I can play quite complicated stuff well half cut. So like our shows are always pretty crazy, and it's a good experience when it goes well.
So you must be looking forward to doing a live album in Derry. Derry's the hometown of your record label, isn't it?
Yeah, our label Small Town America is based in Derry. So that's going to be really cool. Like I said at the start, like our albums are good and I really enjoy them, but there's an element of our shows that the live thing is really cool because we do improvise quite a bit live, and the songs are just a bit more that sort of cool thing you want from a rock band is that it's loose and tight at the same time. It feels like it's about to fall apart because it's going so crazy, but it's also so streamlined and so controlled. Kind of like when I listen to certain rock records, that's what I'd want it to sound like Smashing Pumpkins at their peak or At the Drive-In, where it was just really chaotic, but at the same time, just smashing it. So that's kind of one thing we've always been really good at live, and anytime I've heard tapes of us live, or anytime I've heard like radio sessions, I've always thought that's what we should sound like, but we've never been able to capture it. I mean, even on our last records, we recorded it completely live, like no click tracks or anything like that, just kind of blasted it out. That was still good, but it's still a bit tame because we're thinking about it. So the live album's going to be good. It'll just be completely live as it happens. We can have all the fun bits left in.
How did the Small Town America thing come about?
I've been buying records from Small Town since about 2002, and had kind of kept in contact with the guys. Like I think they'd heard of us because we'd toured with a band called More Conquerors, who are on Small Town, and we'd kind of arranged a lot of their early tours, and they'd stayed with us and all that sort of thing. So when Jet Plane Landing, who are one of my favourite bands, reformed, they were going on tour, I emailed them, like, if you guys got support for Glasgow, and they were like, oh, funnily enough, we were just about to email you guys to see if you want to do it. So we were kind of blown away, and at the time we were just about to go in and record an EP, like it was going to be, and Andrew from the label kind of said after the gig, like, you should send us this when it's done, because I think it'll be really good. And we recorded it and sent it to them, just thinking it was going to be an EP, and they were like, this is great, do an album and we'll put it out. And that's how it started. It was just as simple as that, you know. So we signed a deal with them. But actually, in like very rock and roll mythology style, we signed a record deal with them on my 27th birthday. So I was kind of a bit paranoid that I was going to go a bit Jimi Hendrix, but thankfully I'm 28 now and I've survived.
Plus, apparently you're not that drugged up guy on stage anyway. So.
No, I'm actually 100% not that guy. That was one thing when I turned 27, I was like, oh no, I'm going to have to get into heroin there. It's just the way things are going to go, you know. Like we did, there was a thing last year at King Tut's. It was like a 20th anniversary of Kurt Cobain's suicide, so there was a big gig to raise money for mental illness. You know, it was for the Scottish Association for Mental Health, which is an amazing charity. Yeah, so we were like, yeah, let's definitely do this. So we were doing that gig, and like I said, I just turned 27. Kurt Cobain died at 27. I started having this really mystery stomach illness in the weeks running up to the gig. So I had been ill for about 4 weeks running up to the gig and like could barely play. I was like, I am becoming a cliche. So we'd done the gig like of me like kind of pure emaciated, kind of on stage and had like a Fender Jaguar and all this and fuck.
Where's the smack?
Yeah, it was at that point then that I got really paranoid because Martin, our drummer, decided he was going to write a solo album where he's singing and playing guitar, and I was like, are you waiting on me killing myself so you can become Dave Grohl? Is this just a thing? So that gig was great, but it was a bit like, because the first gig I ever done was playing like Smells Like Teen Spirit, so doing that gig was kind of like a full circle sort of thing, but that was a good show. But so thankfully when I turned 28 this year, it was a momentous occasion.
And a massive relief.
It was a massive relief, aye. It could have gone either way.
That's great, man. Have you got anything else you want to say for a wrap up?
Not really. I'm going to continue playing music until I either get bored of it or can't anymore.
Or die?
Yeah, well, I don't plan on dying anytime soon. You know, I kind of like the idea of not becoming a cliche. I mean, the idea of playing rock music won't last ever, but like I said, I love playing music in all forms. I've been trying to come up with a good idea for a solo album, but I don't want to do that traditional thing of this like guy in rock band suddenly gets the acoustic guitar out and writes some really sad songs. That's fucking overplayed. But maybe if I did that, I'd maybe get nominated for a SAY award, because otherwise that's not going to happen.
There's a lot I could say about that, but I think we should probably just leave it there. Thanks for talking to us.
No problem, man. Cheers.
So there you have it. Quite an interesting and enlightening interview, I thought. I think that's pretty much the theme. I'm trying to go for interesting and enlightening interviews. Kenny was no exception to that. Very articulate, intelligent guy, as I said at the start, and it was a total pleasure to speak with him. Plus he does have a really nice flat. So yeah, check out their album on Small Town America. It's called Let's Get Metaphysical. Check them out on Facebook, check them out on Twitter. They work really hard and they deserve your support. So please go do that. That's going to be all for this week. If you could like me on Facebook at the Curator Podcast, check out the website www.thecuratorpodcast.com. I'm also on Twitter, where I seem to be quite active of late, so if you want to have a chat, get me there. It's the Curator Pod. Or you can send me an email. I respond to emails. I love emails. Oh yes, and also please join the newsletter. I'm getting more subscribers every week. It's good. I hope people like it. If you're already on it, please get back to me if you think I can make adjustments. Feedback is crucial, and I love to hear people's opinions and feedback on this stuff. So yeah, please do that. So I'm going to play you out now with another track from Carnivores' debut album. This song is called John Maynard Keynes, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye-bye. Like a cure for social anxiety that only numbs the pain. It's a vicious circle of debt that prompts you to buy things you will never need.